Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very special guest, Audrey from At Polishing Marbles, is a wonderful channeler and a wonderful cosmic bridge, if you will. She has lots of experience working with people and working in therapy and working through multidimensionality, and she has a lot of wisdom and a lot that she brings to the table. And so we are very, very blessed to have her on the show today and channeling one of her guides that she calls Osho. And so we will get into that. We have some specific questions for Osho regarding the changing of the times and some frequency anomalies that we have seen. And so we'll be exploring that as well as anything else that Osho would like to bring through. So thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, resolving mirror world problems by becoming aware that we are the mirror of the world collective, radiating through all its many forms. So it's the as above, so below, as within, so without. Is that what you're referring to? Or
Yeah,
I
and
don't know the
also
term mirror world.
also dropping ego. Like, okay, so some of the other groups that I have gotten involved with in some astral play and astral journeying, we've bumped up to this concept of the mirror world. But some people see it as like literally a world outside of us, outside of ourselves. And so it's like a place that we journeyed to, but we had this big to do, like this brief meeting about like before we did any of this about how don't engage with it, don't talk to it, it'll suck you. Like, this is where insanity
Oops.
comes from. The idea
Uh-huh.
of doing things over and over again with a different result is kind of tied to this paradigm. And so my kind of quirky line of thinking is, well, why are we projecting it outside of us when if we're unity, we are all of that. And so where can we break down the barriers of ego and separation to see through those illusions, if you will, to
Well, it's like Alice
better,
through the looking glass, right?
hmm yeah, kind of better coming into ourselves as opposed to like rejecting those parts of us. And I've heard some people say, things like, well, my alters came to me, like alter versions of themselves from a different reality. And I think that's an interesting concept to play with. Like, okay, I have a version of myself, that has gone through this and maybe has these different implants and maybe that's why I feel a certain way in this part of my body. And like just kind of playing with all of those. I can see it, but I can see the duality of it. Like I can see if I project them all out, I can see that there's multiple and they're different. But then if I think about it like I am the one vessel that holds all of these stories, like maybe I'm looking for a good mechanism to like break down that process or like help merge the thinking there.
I know he's going to have an answer on this that's going to blow both of our minds. And I'll be like, what? I don't understand. Okay, cool. Whatever you say, Osho. Okay. Is the mirror ball in lifetimes in the soul? Okay, God, you worded this so beautifully. The moon as the mirror ball space of life between lifetimes in the soul. Is that also like reflecting on the fact that the moon is associated with our shadow state as well?
To- Totally. It's like, so I have this theory, like what if the moon was hijacked at some point?
It was. I know it
Totally.
was. It
But like,
absolutely, because we're not supposed to bleed every month. Motherfucker. Okay.
well, there's a lot that goes into that, right? And so
Uh-huh.
it's like if somebody wanted to hijack the energy of humanity, let's say, or life on planet Earth, what better way than to do it through influence of the codes that it brings in the water and the tides and like just how the moon works. And so like I started to see it like this
Brilliant.
stream of like false light almost coming from the moon to us. And one of my classes was talking about, well, let's go to the space between lives. And we didn't talk about it being a moon, being the moon, but like the more I pondered it and thought about it and then started to see other things like play out, it was like, oh, well, that makes like logical sense. It's always orbiting us, and so we can never get away from really that stream of energy. And so, what do we do about it other than do what we can to reclaim it? And that's kind of what the journey that I've been on lately has been a common theme is reclaim, not just reclaiming this piece of it, but reclaiming everything, all pieces of our sovereignty, all pieces of ourself, and we're part of the planet and that energy stream is part of the planet. And so it only follows that, that would be a logical place to look at in terms of reclaiming energy, if that's the case.
This is actually really cool for so many reasons because A, I'm getting plowed with information just talking about it. So I know I'm supposed to channel really soon. Second of all, it's actually resolving a question I have had in having this discussion. It's resolving a question I've had in that I have felt my body is going through a transformative uh, exorcism of its own from a matrices on multiple levels right now that Osho gave me a vision the other night actually of almost like chicken wire that like beneath the surface of me that's made of like a black tar type collagen that's being ripped out from under the ground of myself. And because I'm going through a lot of pain in my joints abnormally, so like more than like ascension symptoms, it's like what the fuck kind of thing. And it's like this ripping of this collagen of this old blueprint. It's like the actual structure that I am is being pulled out, and that's happened in all aspects. And the moon casting a shadow and being that shadow aspect of ourselves is what I'm feeling I'm releasing, is that shadow aspect. And so this is really beautiful.
Yeah, there's multiple layers to it too. Like
So many.
if you look at like the like perfect thirds has been coming to mind a lot, or like in the grand design of things, you kind of, and even mathematically so, you can have perfect thirds and an observer and you've got a full system. And that applies to many layers of it. And so on another level, I'm also feeling like we're bringing together like the layers of inner earth, surface earth, as in us surface dwellers, as well as the galactic side of things. And so if you think of the moon as like the perfected child, if you will, the sun as the father, it's like reclaiming this big giant shadow, and the perfected child gets to release all of, that kind of dark webbing and matrices for all of us. And so it's bringing together the inner parts of what's here and our ancestry and everything else that goes into that, also with the galactic side of things, and we get to be kind of that center piece, if you will, to hold the frequencies and help anchor it and bring it all together.
Which actually speaks to an image Osho gave me the other day about a plasmic mycelium that exists within the ethers that connects all of the things above and below in this network of the unseen. And I've got this enormous, beautiful wolf spider that's created this absolutely impressive structure outside of my front door. So much so, my cleaning lady will refuse to go through the front door because she doesn't want to ruin it. And she sends me pictures of my spider when she's cleaning. So, like,
I love
she's
that.
part of the family now. But then I was just in a mountain like Cascade and McCall just a couple days ago with my daughter, and cobwebs just everywhere, light coming through cobwebs. I'm like, I get it, spiders everywhere, but it's really truly that's the net, that's the matrix of this crystalline color of it. As you see, like the sun was coming down and it was hitting all these spider webs, and it was like diamonds on it. And it feels that the mechanism of a spider web is that the vibration lets the spider know that something has landed and food. We're all connected through this web. As we are releasing our shadow, everything else is going to obviously be releasing it at the same time. There's no disconnection. So I think this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful on every level question. I'm on a selfish note, I just want to hear the answer. On another note, I am curious how like on the platform you've created, who is it created for so that it can be well received? And what like vibration does it need to be delivered in? How simplistic or not simplistic does it need to come through for it to be receivable?
So, and that's a great clarifying question. I think the idea for the channel in general is really to wake us up to the things that are here in the field that we programming has kept us from knowing about, and now that we're seeing it for ourselves firsthand, it's about bringing that forward. It's about connecting it with the unity of all things. It's about the path and journey that we've been on to graduate to the next level and raising consciousness is really the undercurrent of what this show's about.
Fantastic.
And I
What
love
have
that
you
you brought
already
up the
contributed to the show?
Um, so there's a handful of channelings we've that I've done with a couple of friends from this astral projection course that we've taken together, and so we're students together. We're going to be graduating from this cohort pretty soon. Um, and so it's been a little bit of dabbling in some of those mechanics of channeling, of bringing through ascended master type of voices. There's a Katumi channeling, Kuan Yin, a couple of others right now, and so that'll build out in terms of the channeling and who do we want to contact and what do we want to bring through for XYZ topic. It'll also end up being, I think, a collaboration of shapeshifters because I want to bring through people like us, you, JJ, others that we know that are leaning into that in full trust and seeing kind of what the path wants to unfold like and trusting in that. And so I think at the end of the day, it will also be a really interesting and powerful collaboration of kind of all of our different stories and how they weave together and it'll build upon itself obviously. And so it's just going to be an adventure of where do we go from here? And
Sounds
what's next in
awesome.
the new world?
And I mean, it's new every day. I feel
Absolutely.
like I jump timelines so many times. I don't know what day I'm gonna wake up to every day, you know?
100%.
It's like, where did I land today? Oh, my daughter's being nice. I like this timeline. Oh my God, this is the best. This is the best. Okay, well, I'm actually like, what Osho tends to do is he tends to answer everything seamlessly that needs answered without me being specific. So just setting the intention of that and going into it, I think is going to be fruitful. So
Perfect. I'd
I
love
want
to
to show
hear
you
what
my,
Osho has to say about also the dark material you were talking about with
yes.
you're talking about the chicken wire and how it's kind of dense. Because there's a piece in this mirror world kind of paradigm or theory, if you will, that we're trying to figure out and put our finger on. And I have a feeling it's reflective of possibly the plasmic energy and the plasmic light. And so I'm curious, like, what he has to say about the material itself and whether it's connected, and I'm sure that'll all come through as well.
I'm as I look at my X-Files poster. I don't know if you ever watched the X-Files, but
Totally.
there was a black tar that like infiltrated people on that show. Ironically, Cigarette Smoking Man and all that stuff was written. Chris Carter was that the creator? He he was silenced a lot of the time. So whenever someone's silenced, you know that there's something there. And a lot of the things that he wove into his storytelling were actually legitimate, observed, experienced phenomena. And I don't think it's a mistake that the black tar is coming up, in part because even before my awakening, when I was just counseling people and I didn't know it was my gift that it was happening, I would just talk to them about like you have a black tar suit on and you just need to like unzip it and like take it off and you know like the creepy guy in season 1 of American Horror Story. Like that's all you need to do, you know? But I could see the black tar and now I'm like, I think that was really black tar.
Interesting. And it also reminds me of who's the Marvel character? It's like Venom or something that it like it's in and
Okay.
it's like out.
Yes. That's actually the image that was given to me by Osho during this channeling, but I didn't know if you'd know what I was talking about. There was this
Okay.
video of like, what was it? Like Spider-Man was trying to get the venom off of him or something in a bell tower, and how bells tune you to a certain frequency that release the darkness. And that's why all the
Totally.
bells were, destroyed. And I was like, holy shit, I'm seeing this black tar on him as a perfect mirror, again, mirrors, of like this matrices that's being ripped out of me from every level of a certain dimensional quality. And I just think there's something for us to unpack. But I want you
Totally.
to see my new crystal really fast. My friend Mariana, she just retired from a crystal store and she rotates her crystals. And she's like, this crystal wants to live with someone else right now. And I think it looks like dragon scales really close up.
So beautiful.
I love it. It's red calcite. I want to eat it.
I know it looks like a piece of watermelon. Oh, I had the same
Don't you
idea.
ever, do you ever want to eat crystals? Because I always want to. My daughter, every time we're in a crystal store, she looks at like grape, what's it called? It's not grape agate or grape, the one that looks like Nerds candy.
Okay.
She's like, I want it in my mouth. Okay, stop it. You can't eat rocks right now. Anyway, like I want to, but okay, I'm gonna channel him, and I think this might be the only one that comes through today, perhaps because it's really multifaceted. So we'll see. We'll see though. Okay. Yonder de tibraniota e kinoshta. He's showing me Jupiter actually immediately. He's showing me all the moons around Jupiter and saying there's like this overactive accumulation of moons around Jupiter because there's so much debris so like it's debris. And now he's showing me like sleep in your eyes. So it's debris is brought together. It's what's being purged. It's your shadow. Moons are created from what is being eliminated and is no longer of service to the evolution of the consciousness of whatever it is. So, and he's saying very much, he's like, not to get it confused with like the human body eliminating in other ways, like urine or feces. It's not like that kind of elimination. It's shedding what is no longer serving on a vibrational level that is materialized. It's more like when, oh, and he's like, not ironically, when a woman is shedding her womb space, it's not going to be of use in that reality anymore. That's interesting. What do you mean by the reality? It's like that timeline of the potential is no longer there. It was channeled before in my last event was discussing the shedding of a potentiality. Moons are the shedding of a potentiality to create something new out of what has been shed. So it's this accumulation. As humans, we experience it as sleep in our eyes, or it's like a cleaning mechanism of our eyes, which is a universe, which is a nebula, right? So he's showing me this is all mirrors, not a play on words. He means it literally. We are mirrors of this and that, the law of correspondence. So as the debris of the uh, released potential in itself comes together to create a new thing, it's like repurposing. I saw this reel earlier today of someone like taking fast fashion and then like repurposing it into like unique pieces of art. And he's basically saying that's what the moon is of all planets. It's like taking what isn't used and creating a new thing from this vibrational state. And that is actually, he's saying, very connected to intonality and polarity and expression through energy expression itself. He said it in that tone, expression with emphasis of like the the mirror, the looking glass that you brought up before, it's like the polarized end, it's the negative of the picture. It's taking what is and looking at the negative space, like in a drawing class. Instead of drawing what you're drawing the negative space. And so the mirror is actually this opportunity to point out in an almost caricatured way what is askew, like the Mad Hatter. It's like everything is opposite from its original blueprint. So when you look at these, like in general in storytelling, when there's an archetype that is distorted, it is basically this negative space showing you, in essence, the shadow form of what the original blueprint is, or what the intended or healed version of this is. And it's not to note that one is either good or bad, it's simply to acknowledge what range it falls on that polarity ranking, or I'm seeing like a bell curve of like, this is the positive polarity, this is the negative polarity. Where does it land on the in between? The in between, the perfect in between would be the medium, like how everything is just like on average, this is how it would come together. But he's showing me the sun and the moon are obviously opposing polarities of the masculine and feminine from the law of gender, but it is in it's a mirror self. Like he's showing me very graphically the empty space of a vagina and the projective space of a penis. He's like, these two are, one is a negative of the other. He's like, do you understand? Yes, I understand. um there is nothing that doesn't fall into this positive and negative. It's math, it's science, it's everything that we know to be true. However, he's saying that there is a, because in between dimensions, when they are like crawling up that tree of life, basically up to the tree house of the heart and beyond to the keter to divine source love, where we come back into our connection with source love, everything beneath that is going to be some version of a distortion that's getting a little bit closer but not quite there. But it's, they always say it's the journey, not the destination. And so in this journey, sometimes he's showing me like the Fool tarot card. He's got this little like hobo stick over his shoulder with this little pack at the end of it with something inside. He's going out on his journey. There's a point where he may have to shed things, like in the movie The Wild, when she overpacked and she has to shed all these things in order to like actually carry her backpack across this trail. There are things we lose along the way, that we shed along the way, and that is the no longer needed aspects that become a moon. The parts of us that acquired those things before were often out of us. Oh, this is so cool. Thank you. Out of a sense of control or desire to control. When the release comes, it's through a state of surrender that we are able to do that. We come to a state of surrender to realize what we really do and don't need. The beauty of this, and he's showing me, I went to the Olympia National Forest at the Hoh Rainforest. I was camping there and I didn't have my mesh bag tied up properly overnight in the river to keep my items cool. I had like the water rose a little bit and it wasn't tied tightly enough. And so I woke up and my mesh bag of all my food was gone. But I thought to myself, oh, I don't want to, I immediately thought, oh no, I don't want to litter. I don't want to whatever, but it was food. And I was like, there's someone who's going to find it that needed it. And he's saying that it's like that when you release and surrender to what isn't going to work in its potential, you're able then to really release it to who can use it. And as it's accumulated into this new thing, he's showing me like when I was making peach cobbler last week and I was rolling out the dough, but I was like cutting out the amount for the baking dish and there was stuff left over. So I put it together. They were little scraps and I put them together. And then I made, actually, ironically, the triple thing you were talking about. I made triangles. And I put them all over the top of the peach cobbler. I don't know why I put triangles, but I wanted to put triangles. So I made all these little triangles out of all these scraps. And he's saying you can make anything out of the scraps. It's who is putting the scraps together and who has access to the scraps that create what it's going to be. It's who finds it first, basically. Um, what's that saying? Losers, oh, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. That I'm hearing my brother say that to me right now. So it's what you lost, someone else is going to find and make something out of it. So what I'm seeing with the Earth Moon, it was what was shed from Gaia as she was developing, and she created this polarized aspect of the what was needed for the sun, and there was needed to be light during night when the sun was away. It was realized that, oh, I need to put all these scraps together to make this cobbler. So it came together, but it looks almost like there was this is such, I don't know why he explains these things to me this way, but okay, so in Boise, Idaho, I remember it was like in 2004 or something, we got a Krispy Kreme. Now, it used to be that people would go straight to Utah to get Krispy Kreme and bring them back, like for church and stuff. It was wild. There were people who like post on social media, oh, I went to Utah to get freaking Krispy Kreme. Like, why? There's no donut that's that important, but it was like a thing because there's a lot of Mormons here, and I don't know, they like donuts. So he's showing me, and we just got that with an In-N-Out. Like an In-N-Out just opened at one of our places. It's literally always backed up a mile. I don't know why. They're just fucking burgers. But he's showing me that when this new thing popped up, everyone from everywhere wanted to like be like, hey, have you gone to In-N-Out yet? And so there was this, as it was developed, like this, it's almost like a free bin or like see, like my daughter found this big uh chair, like this uh, it was, it had the print of like old flowers on it, like a Laura Ashley print of this like puffy chair on the side of the road that she and her friend picked up and took to their band room in high school, named it Margine. And it was just like free on the side of the road. I'm seeing the moon is the disposed of things that is treasure to somebody else, basically. And it could be made into anything. Like I made the scraps into triangles, and I'm seeing that the moon was minding its own business. It was being moon-like. It was doing its thing. It's like controlling the water. It's in this synchronistic dance. I'm seeing it's a dance, a fluid dance with Gaia. My ears just started ringing really high. It's a synchronistic dance with Gaia. I'm seeing just waves going back and forth, and it's beautiful and it's fluid and it feels right and it feels right and it feels right. All these things. And then there was this there was the word I guess closest is infiltration of energies in order to really make use of a resource. It was planned, a planned forced use of a resource for later, and it feels a bit Anunnaki related, like, or at least that tonality. Like I'm familiar with Anunnaki coming to harvest gold from Earth. I'm familiar with the feeling of violation that Gaia felt with that. This doesn't feel exactly like it, but it feels like it's like they're friends, like with the moon. I don't know that the Anunnaki were involved in the moon directly, but or what I'm thinking of them. There's something with that energy exactly. Basically, like I'm seeing the energy is like, I'm going to take what I want. But it was a really well thought out plan. It was a really well thought out plan, which is, it was of confusion. It was of confusion. I feel like it was a chaos confusion. Like, have you ever been on a gravitron? Like one of those things at the fair where it's going so fast, the gravity makes you go up on these little roller backs. but when you walk out of the gravitron, you're really loopy and confused, like you're not really oriented. I'm seeing that that's what they wanted to create with the moon, realizing this connectivity with, and now I'm seeing this web of connectivity, this plasma web. Um, yeah, okay. Hold on just a sec. There's a lot of information with that coming in. So it looks like it's playing an instrument. So the it's a mastery of grids. It's because I've had a previous life where I went to basically like the Hogwarts of grid work uh, in Atlantis, where I was trained on music and tones and frequencies in such a detailed way through weaving with like sewing and then fixing what was disjointed and going back and fixing it, like fixing timelines. It was like an applicable, like an application of this skill that was trained from a very young age, that was in all vibrations. It was like basically mastery of vibrations 101, but Hogwarts, and it was cool. But I'm seeing that these people were masters that came from another very dark planet. The planet that they came from looks like what we would say is like a Mars, but dim. It's not bright red, it's like a clot red. And it's also like charcoal. It has an essence of like dull, dull charcoal red. It's not Mars, it's something else. It's very depressing. It feels depressing. Like as I'm looking at it, it's almost like got this essence of like the hopelessness of Dune. And I think I'm seeing that because of it's barren. It's there's no, that's probably why they wanted to control the water. It's barren. There's nothing could grow there. There's no life there. It's like uninhabitable, but that's where they're from. Like they fucked up their own planet, it seems like. So maybe it was the Anunnaki. I'm not being shown that. So, but there was this deep intellect and knowledge that if we mess with the thing that controls the water, then we control everything on the planet. So it was an indirect, really? It was an indirect control at first through the moon because nothing was fully connected to. Fucking A. Sorry, when he goes 4D on me, I'm like, God, this is so depressing. Why do you tell me this? I didn't want to know. But yeah, I did. I asked. Okay, so it's basically, yeah, it's reptilian. It's reptilian. And the reptilians found a new, like a newer way with the older way to control masses through like what we know today as media and news and all that stuff. But indirectly, they've done it through the planetary cycling of this inorganic moon because they usurped it. Like they finders keepers, losers weepers. It's really like the bully on this playground. I can see like that sneer, like, what are you gonna do about it, kind of thing. Of they got to it first because everyone was interested in the new Krispy Kreme, but they didn't have a use for it. They're like, I've already got a floral chair in my living room. I don't need a margine. So, but they're like, I can do something with this, like someone who has a shack out back that keeps on going to garage sales. They're like, I can use this. So they thought about it and then went for this one particular thing where their long game was to take over the planet like an insidious growth. No, you did. And they do it through the vibrational frequency of the um this plasma web. But when they touch it, it turns to like this, it's a crushing energy. It's like it has the energy of dark feminine, surprisingly, which is very cold and crushing. Like a black hole is basically like a big vagina that crushes everything that goes into it, right? So it's in essence plasma is like creation, and this black yucky tar thing, it's like curling around like a vine. I saw a reel yesterday about how, what was it? It was a certain kind of vine, and that how it goes searching, kind of like brain cells search for connection, but they've got these little like thorns almost at the end where they can attach to something, and then they crawl up it once they attach to it. So they're using it, and they are using the blueprint of the plasma to weave their vine of this dark black tar onto the web and then strum the note that affects the tonality of how we receive from the moon. So it becomes the dark mirror, becomes the black mirror. Love that shit. Becomes the black mirror, the negative space of the potential that was discarded. It's a mirror. It's a mirror of what was discarded from the original blueprint. It has now been utilized as a dark mirror to take over our water source, our womb space, our physical bodies, and how we respond to things in rational or irrational ways based off of the cycling of the moon cycle that is inorganic at this time because time has been altered. The way, fuck, seriously? The infiltration has changed how time passes. So it doesn't pass how we believe it passes. It passes completely differently. He's saying that there's like, it's vibrational when time goes by fast or slow, but it's also when it's not vibrational, it's actually how the cycles of the moon and weather and everything is infiltrated. There's nothing that is organic right now, but it's being made to be organic. How we can learn from this, he's saying, is for us to acknowledge the inorganic aspect of these things, to see as a below aspect of this. What have we discarded? And are we careful about what we discard and where it goes and what hands it's put into and what can be made out of it? And also, is there something we can yet still do with what we want to discard? And are we discarding it because it's a part of us that is our shadow that we do not wish to look at and make something new of or integrate? Or is it something that we really truly are needing to release? There's an important note about like not being too hasty in releasing something and really taking a scrutinizing look again, unironically, at a mirror to see, are you releasing to avoid shadow of your own, or are you releasing in order that it's put into hands for someone to make something new and beautiful out of it that is complete?
That's super fascinating. I can tell you what the group has been seeing over the course of the last several weeks as we kind of try to hit different layers of this, because someone came in contact with who they called an archon. It was this big giant spider looking thing that was like kind of infiltrating somebody's brain and
Oh, wow.
like kind of like the mycelium that like takes over and like
Mm-hmm.
makes you do
Yeah.
stuff. Like that's exactly what it looked like and felt like. And so so we did a couple of missions to like see what we could do about these archons, and it was kind of difficult to kill them and taking down their grids. Like the way that we like the first time we tried it, it took us a long time and it was like we got one page out of the book in a sense. And so I spent some time thinking about that, and the exorcist in the room did a session on someone shortly after that and said that he was able to have a conversation with, you know, one of their upper leaders and say, look, like, let me show you the damage that you're actually causing. Are you guys aware that this is what's happening? And they kind of acted like they didn't even know. like the pain and suffering of humanity and how their actions were kind of creating these repercussions. And so the story that I got was kind of like this whole species just like evacuated. It was like, sorry, we didn't mean to hurt anybody. And so as you're talking about these different connections with like, you know, the Anunnaki having kind of a different intention behind utilizing this moon energy, and then maybe reptilians came in and jumped on that bandwagon, and then maybe they elicited help from these spider
Yeah,
characters, and so it's just like this snowball effect. So what we did 2 weeks ago was I asked to revisit those Archon grids because of the different grid work that JJ's group is doing and everything that happened in Shasta. I was like, I know this is all connected. So let's take another look at this. Let's get Guy's assistance for, you know, some suggestions. And so what we ended up doing was we put all our heads together and we created a technology. It was actually three technologies we brought to the table. And then we were like, okay, well, how do we implement this? And I said, well, let's ask Gaia what the best way forward is. And
for
so
sure.
she helped us put all these three technologies together, and then she installed it in everybody on the team. And like I think I remember saying at one point, I don't know what's happening right now, but my whole body is tingling. Like, what are you guys seeing? And they were like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like they were like, well, Guy is just basically empowering us with the tools that we need to tear shit up. And so
Hell yeah.
so we spent like an hour going and like fixing these grids and trying to like repair stuff. And so the analysis at the end of that mission was, you guys, like we worked really hard the first time and we got through like one page of this stuff. We just got through 100% of that grid, and let's see what happens now. And it really felt like it was like wearing an Iron Man suit and kind of flying
Oh,
around like
cool.
with the hands and feet were kind of the projectors. And so that was kind of cool to like feel into and play with. And so just an interesting story that's unfolding on the, you know, the subversive like manipulation that's been at play for so long, and just being a part of the team that's helping Gaia reclaim those parts of the shadow and like be more conscious of what we're doing about it has been really empowering and uplifting and cool to be a part of.
Well, especially I think too, when I was doing grid working in Washington at the Hoh Rainforest, we went to Salduke, this, this double waterfall, and I ended up tapping into this big Anunnaki energy there about what Gaia felt when she was used for her gold, like her nectar, her elixir of life. And it was very much like assault energy and betrayal and all of this stuff. It was just really overwhelming, and everyone in my group of friends and grid workers were experiencing that similar thing. And it was all around her being empowered again. Like the grid work was for her to gain her power back and to have a say in what is being done, like for her to give her consent about what was being done to her, for her, with her, instead of it just being overtly used. So I love how she was consulted. So I'm sure she is just like, yes, thank you for asking me how I want my hair cut right now, you know?
It was really
And
interesting
it's part of
because
her
that
healing.
absolutely. Well, in a couple weeks before that, the team got into like this really heated, passionately heated debate about because we what was it? We like followed the line of something. I'm trying to remember now. Maybe the details aren't as important, but we got to a point where we found someone holding a contract and was like, well, you guys can't do this because I have this contract. And so the debate was, well, do we validate this entity saying they have a contract with Gaia by reaching for it and taking it? Because, like, we know it's not a sovereign document. We know it's an illegal and it's not, you know, it wasn't legally founded, basically. And so, do we just destroy it? Do we just destroy the thing? Or do we validate it by grabbing it? And, like, in the middle of this, I'm like, okay, hold on, you guys. We could bicker about this for hours. And I'm just watching everybody's ego kind of play in, which is also interesting. But I was like, okay, hold on. We just 5 minutes ago said that we're reclaiming Gaia's sovereignty. I want to know what Gaia wants us to do about this. And immediately she
Yeah.
disintegrated all of it through all time, space, dimension as realities. And
Fuck
I
yeah,
was
she
like,
did.
yeah, see what happens when we just get out of our own way.
That was not hard, you guys. That was not hard. Just ask her what she wants. No, that's great. I love hearing that so much. I think every woman is happy to hear that she was consulted, you know?
Absolutely. So what's your thought on closing out this story if it started with the Anunnaki? Like everything has a beginning and an end, and I've been seeing I haven't been sure yet how to feel about what I'm seeing about the Anunnaki storyline, and I've been
I
meaning to
know,
go into
right?
like a rabbit hole of research and see kind of what all that's about. But I have this deck of that I keep pulling, like Anunnaki light codes keep coming out, and I'm like,
Okay.
okay, this is part of something. And it's almost like the time play thing where like we're rolling back stuff to like the original
Hmm.
time
To
and
heal
kind
it.
of rewriting that to heal it. And so I guess my next question is maybe Osho has advice about this Anunnaki storyline and maybe some guidance for how to close this out and continue forward on the path of empowering Gaia out of these paradigms that she's been in for so long.
I already know the answer to that one because I've actually gone down after that happened. I was like experiencing a lot of Anunnaki channeling, and the this beautiful analogy came forth. So I'm just gonna share the analogy with you because I feel like it answers the question beautifully. But if it doesn't, I can go back in and share. But he told me this is very much like if you were to have a high school reunion, like a junior high reunion, maybe, and you come back after like 30 years of being in junior high. And there was this one guy in my junior high who, snapped my bra straps and would be like, come talk to me when you grow some tits, and was just like a general fucker. And, but, but actually, that guy, he's a real estate agent now. He's got kids. He's a great human, and we're friends. And he did end up being like, God, I am sorry. I was such an asshole. I've learned so much now. I needed to grow up a little bit. Things are just different. I have a daughter, I have a wife. I would do anything, for these women. I did all this stuff out of stupidity. And I feel like every single thing on this planet and outside of this planet and this whole universe is working on being in this like into source, into chaos, into source. We're somewhere on that. And the Anunnaki are part of their own karmic journey. And so they have not thought of the effects of their behavior before, like when I was 18 and used to just flick my cigarette out of my car and not think that was littering because I didn't give a shit. It's like that. Now I know better. Of course, I don't smoke, but like I actually pick up trash when I am on trails now because I know better. I'm older. And I feel like the healing of the Anunnaki circle, like that Ouroboros, is that what it feels like is that there is almost this uh, desire for reparation. I worked with a woman who was from Germany. She was a nurse, and someone said something about like Hitler around her once, and she felt like very defensive. And she's like, we hold such deep shame as an entire country that Hitler even came from where we identify, that we hold part of the shame of it as though we also did it, even though none of us were alive and we never would do that. It is held collectively. And I feel that that's a microcosm of like the Anunnaki as a whole, is this collective sadness of what their behavior has done. And like, how do I repair that? How do I give the 40 acres and a mule past the time when that was offered? You know what I mean? So like, how do we make amends for the wrong we did when we didn't know better, or we thought we were bigger and better than we are? I feel like that is mirrored on every level in everything everywhere. And so that I think will be given opportunity when we become part of this galactic family again, is what I see as this: when we open up our stargates again and we're not, because we have been in quarantine because of the black mold. I've always said we're in quarantine. We've got this like big circus tent around our freaking planet because we've got black mold and they don't want it to spread. So we shut down all the stargates and all of the portals and all the vortexes. Like we're just like cut off from everything. But we're starting to open it. Like we're starting to open it up, right? So when we become part of this galactic, I've felt from my galactic ancestors, and I'm part reptilian, and there's like a very small segment of old female reptilians that are on this galactic federation ship that I'm related to some of those old grandmas, and they're just so chomping at the bit to like help. And the Arcturians, especially, which I'm mostly Arcturian, they are like, we are so sorry. We feel like you're our little sister and we left you in an abusive home and we got the hell out of there. I am so sorry. Let us help. So it's when we open up those gates, I feel like they're going to really heal the crap out of us very quickly. And that's just vibrational. It just takes a really big event to, it really doesn't take a lot. We just need one event for the disbelief to be completely eliminated in all people. Once it just takes one event for people to be like, oh, we were lied to this whole time, when they're not aware. Like it just takes a moment where they're like, motherfuckers, and then it's like the collective belief makes it real. Like all of the 80s movies around Santa Claus, at the end everyone has to believe in Santa Claus and then his freaking sleigh can fly again. That's when we get dragons back. That's when we get, we can see them. That's when we're able to be part of the galactic family, is when the collective belief, as Hermes says in the Asclepius, that the common belief makes it so. So when we commonly believe and understand, we do have the capacity as ascended beings, and we will have connection to outer dimensions and our galactic ancestors. They're very eager to make reparations of what they previously did that harmed. But it's all also like when you get together with that person from junior high and they're like, I'm so sorry I was such an idiot. You can be like, dude, I thought being anorexic was a good idea, and I ate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pudding pies. So like we were both struggling. It's almost like this mutual understanding that we both didn't do our best and made decisions, and we all have, and we're just coming to the table to, feast and be like, I can't believe we made it, you know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And it's a great analogy. Um, does Osho have any advice for the eradication of said black mold? Because I feel like a lot of us, like, it's in our grid work and stuff, that's kind of what we're doing behind the scenes, whether or not we realize it consciously.
Yeah, he just showed me that my mom used to always say that the light or the dark cannot exist in the light, right? So like he just showed me her saying that to me a million times. She said it to me a million times, and it's just like, we don't have to try. Once we hit a place of a certain frequency of light, which we're already tipping at right now, it's eradicated. And it's a matter, the thing is that we forget that our experience of time and density related to that is drawn out, but it's happening much faster also. So it's basically, yes, it's already eradicated, he's saying, but we're experiencing it as though it is a slow, drawn out process of like slow exposure and pain and suffering and blah 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 blah. But he's like, everything, like your life happens in a blip of a moment, and all that you've witnessed and experienced within that moment has been stretched out like silly putty, so it's slowed down so you can really learn and experience it. But he's like, the work that you're doing is through intention. Your intention makes it so. Through the law of mentalism, there is no reality in which the darkness does not get eliminated when it is out of balance. There's always a need for the balance of light and dark, because if you just had sun, nothing would grow. The soil is needed in order for things to sit and wait to emerge, but you can't have one or the other. You can't just have the crushing darkness and you can't just have the light. You have to have the balance of both. And that's what we're seeking, is not just the elimination of darkness, but the balancing of darkness, is what he's saying. So it's like you need the tension in order for anything to grow. Otherwise, there's no point. Things cease to exist if there's no tension. Tension must continue to exist, but it shouldn't be out of balance to where the black mold eradicates life. It shouldn't be to where life is so bright that we can't grow by looking at our shadows. Like that's actually a gift. That's what we wish to have in the human experience.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It alludes to something that I have to remind myself all the time in terms of, you know, doing and the acts of service versus just being that frequency and holding that. And so, sharing we could because we share it in just being that beacon of light. And so it's still, I guess, a little bit the layers of those that ego. What do I do? What do I do? We just be and enjoy the process and allow it to unfold. Just like you said, it's the best moments are in surrender, not in, in acting or struggle or anything like that.
And that's really coming from, and I'm built the same way, Crystal. So I appreciate that of like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? But it's very much that we live in a state of like productivity because we're in a masculine realm that requires that projective expression to be of value and to feel worthy of anything at all. We have to prove our worth for it. During the medicine journey I did about a month ago, there's this wonderful guy that he was one of the pillars in the journey, and it was during a healing session, and I went over to his like area, and he looked me in the eyes, and of course on plant medicine his eyes were like knew everything, right? So like he and he's like, the moment you wake up, you are worthy of receiving absolutely all and every bit of abundance you could conceive of, and you don't have to prove it to anybody. And I was like, because whether we're aware of it or not, a lot of this like desire to do is out of a feeling of dis-ease that things are not aligned. And I think that we feel that way because they're not aligned, A, and B, because we learned that we could get in trouble if we're not being productive, whether we're being watched or not. And so even when we're doing things we love, we get there's like a certain shift where we end up going to the productive level instead of the present and receptive level, and that's being more masculine than feminine too. So that's it. It's just so freaking hard. And I realized yesterday my big sunflower that fell over, my what was it called? It's like a magnum sunflower or something. Anyway, it fell over, and I realized they get heavy this time of year when the sun is waning. So it lets you know that like it's ready and the sun is going where the sunflower goes. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything everywhere is a mirror, obviously. And I just love seeing the new ways that that's true and how we're mirrored by like our outer experience of, okay, we're in a patriarchal world where your productivity is measured on how much, or your worthiness is measured on how much productivity you have. No wonder I feel dis-ease if I'm still.
Well, that's all part of the,
No,
the design of it, right?
yeah, to have a little tension to find the sweet spot where we're in balance, where like I can can peaches all morning and then like channel with you, and then I'm gonna lay in my backyard maybe and
But
chill later, like that's okay.
yeah, living the dream is what it sounds like.
I'm living whatever timeline I'm in right now is what I'm
There you
doing.
go. And surrendering to the process.
Writing the timeline, baby.
Holding on for dear life.
Soon. So I'll give you like another 5 minutes before my body needs attention.
That's perfect. I'm this feeling the same way.
Okay, great. So about the plasma that's coming in, could you be more specific again? My brain not centered.
Um, it's a good way into this question. I mean, on some level, I don't know if this is really the best way to frame the question, but I'm being shown the light spectrum and how we can only see so much of it. And so as we talk about new forms of light and violet plasma, for example, and just the golden interweavings of everything that we're doing right now, that we're coming into the awareness that we're doing it and how it all works. Um, it almost feels like, I don't know, closing the gap of what we can't see in a way. Like I see it as a butterfly. It's almost like the butterfly wings just like snap together and then we can see it
Okay.
all. I don't know if that's what's happening,
It has to do with the
like at
solar
what
flash.
scale, right? Yeah, okay.
It has to do with the solar flash because it's a very rapid dimensional frequency shift. Right now, that's being experienced by unique souls like you and me and the people who are tapped into higher dimensional frequencies to be able to experience those higher, like different tonalities of the color structure that exists in that spectrum of the like the sunbursts, like those rays that you can see. There's more dimensions to them than we typically have access to, and some people can't see them at all. So the fact that we can see them, or even if they are there, they won't register with people that aren't at the frequency to receive them. So what happens is that when people come into that like higher state of collective coherence with universal light, this is what I'm hearing, universal like source light, when we come into coherence with that and we're not like um it actually like activates that. It has to do with the DNA. Like we won't be able to see it unless we're in our crystalline light body structure of our 12 strand DNA, which many people have been able to upgrade to in a slow and painful process over so many years. But the majority, it's again with the collective experience, like it's already there, but we don't experience it. It's like not being able to see the ghost in your garage. At some point, there will be a, oh, I have a gift now. And so it's going to be collectively, and it is so much around the solar flash and also around the mana, because mana hasn't been available at this dimensional frequency since the fall. And once we get the connection to mana once again through that like change, it's like the sun changes her frequency. And so then I say her because it's the mana, the mother's milk that comes from it through the plasmic body. And so it will be nourishing us, which then becomes like, I'm just seeing Lemurian energy. All of a sudden, I just see like that pearl essence is on everything. And that's like that plasma element in it of creation is then available to our visual field as a whole. And it's also as though I see like when I was like a rave kid in the 90s and I would do acid with my friends and I would always see a grid. It's like being able to be one with those things instead of separate. Like the veil is going to be gone. Like you don't have to drop acid to see the grid anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to, but the solar flash event is what I'm just hearing like over and over and over and over and over again.
What do you think about I've heard some people saying lately that the solar flash they think is going to come in three phases. What do you think about that?
I've seen it every time I see it. This flash itself doesn't come in three phases, but it comes there. So I see a flash, and then I see phases that I've been told are called the splitting, the healing, and they're the great. Okay, it's the splitting, the great healing, and the great rebuilding. So there's three phases from the singular solar flash is what I've seen. That was some of my first channelings. I saw like the moment it happens, everything shifted. It's the moment of remembrance of your sovereignty and who you are and everything. And there's going to be just this incredible rebuilding, but there's like this period of like almost, I feel like I've experienced it in a different way than collectively it will be experienced as a whole, like a microcosm of it, of like the moments I realized, the matrix and all the things. There's so many layers to it. There's betrayal, there's every grief feeling you could have. You go through all this stuff. There's and then there's there's all of that. And but that's going to be happening with a lot of people. And there's going to be a lot of people that die, frankly. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of just like upheaval and the dust has to settle and people's physical bodies are going to be going through their own revamping. um and then when the healing period, and I saw really within a period of like 18 months, the resting, that's when we're resting, we get to rest and just be people for a little bit, and then we're like, okay, what do we do with all of that? Because none of the other stuff's going to work, you guys. What am I going to say? Like, I should probably do something. What do you think? And so I've seen like what happens with certain structures, like corporations, buildings. I've seen what happens with those, like what we're going to do with like all the guns. I've seen that there are things that are going to happen collectively that are beautiful. The times are never specific because I think the timelines themselves shift until we anchor, but like the basic unfolding of it looks to me as though it is 3 phases after the singular event. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, totally. I think that's a fair answer. And I think with that, it feels pretty complete for today. I do appreciate you taking the time and hope to do it again real soon.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, what a wonderful session we had today. Thank you again to Audrey. Her Instagram handle is at Polishing Marbles. Please feel free to check her out. She also has an amazing course right now on the laws of the universe, the Hermetic laws of the universe, which is absolutely phenomenal. Highly recommend. And so feel free to check out her website, will be in the description box. And also feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if this content resonates with you at all. Is there energetic ways for us to communicate through the ethers and exchange messages and surprises from the universe? And we love having you here, and we hope to hear from you and see you again. Thank you, everyone.